as freelancers, probably the best feeling is the lights are out, the house is clean, you're walking into your home office, you have a candle going, chill-fi music in the background, you have your favorite drink, whether that's a coffee or if it's like me, currently it's a smoothie, and you're just ready to melt into the zone of writing. Well, as fun as it can be to work solo dolo, we're humans, and even freelancers need community. The truth is, freelancing can be lonely. And more than that, it is imperative that we have a buddy in this process that's going to help make sure that we are putting out the absolute best work that we can. In today's Nothing for Granted episode, we are going to be talking all about peer reviewers. Where do you find them? Why are they necessary? And an additional note that I have for you at the end. Let's go ahead and just jump right into today's episode, Visionary.
Welcome to Nothing for Granted, a space for aspiring grant writers who are tired of feeling undervalued, underpaid, and overworked by your understaffed nonprofit. Hi. My name is Eliana, grant writer, grants consultant, and freelance coach for Christian entrepreneurs. I live for long-distance cycling rides, iced chai lattes, and outdoor adventures with my 4 little beasts. I teach you grant writing strategies and freelance tactics that set you apart when launching and scaling your Holy Spirit-led business. I, too, was paralyzed by those questions. So paralyzed, in fact, that I launched my business twice, thinking maybe I should take another training because, underqualification. Well, 5 certifications on my wall later. But what if I told you that with a little basic knowledge and next to no experience, you too could launch a successful and sustainable freelance grant consulting business while pursuing that degree, raising littles, and maybe getting a tan on the beach? Permission granted to stop feeling guilty over leaving behind that organization that has you stagnant and to confidently and boldly step into the most elevated version of who you were created to be. You're here for encouragement, accountability, and a slight tough love kick in the butt. No goals, just standards. Lace up your combat boots, tighten up that ponytail. Girl, it's time to get to work.
All right, so thank you so much for joining me on this beautiful Friday morning. I hope that your week has been spectacular. I hope that you are getting so much accomplished in your personal businesses, in your organizations, and in whatever work God has you currently doing. Today, we are going to be talking all about this community of being a peer reviewer, finding a peer reviewer. So I believe that having a peer reviewer is that's a non-negotiable, okay? We can be the best writers out there, and I mean, you know them by the millions, absolute best book writers in the world, and they still have editors. Why? Well, number one, I really believe that it's because they need to be held accountable. If you remember Wednesday's episode all about perfectionism, paralysis, and grant writing burnout. If you haven't listened to that episode, definitely listen to it right after this one so that you get a bit of context and some tips and resources on how you can overcome perfectionism. But like we talked about on Wednesday, we get stuck in this perfectionist mentality of, it's just not quite there yet. I'm just not all the way. I know this can be more impactful. I know this can be better. And having an editor really keeps us accountable to our clients, to our work, to our deadlines. And so it's important to have someone there in your corner that's going to tell you, hey, you owe me this work. I need it ASAP. Not only that, some other benefits of having a peer reviewer is you have someone to review your work, like I mentioned, making sure that you're putting out the best work out there. But it's also someone who's going to give you fresh ideas, either on how to phrase something, on how to use a statistic in a better place, The truth is that we're all prone to make so many mistakes, whether it's grammatical mistakes, missing digits, which has happened, it's happened, overuse of words, unclear explanations of your programs, or really the messaging behind your proposal. So having someone on the outside who can give you that insight, it's invaluable. We're talking, that is gold. And I think that that's really one of the beauties of humanity is, as much as we like to pretend we can do this all on our own, we cannot. It is impossible for us to complete an entire application on our own and really provide the most impactful work that is within us. Honestly, it really does take a community, even if you are a freelancer. So now you're asking yourself, well, that's great. Now I understand, but where do I find them? Where do I find a peer reviewer or an editor that, one, I vibe with, that understands my writing style and isn't going to completely tear it apart because it's not theirs, right? Okay, so let's talk about that. Where do you find them? Well, number one, I would recommend the Funding and Freelance community page. Why? This is a page of up-and-coming freelance grant writers. Freelance grant writers is the key word. These are people that are already in the grant writing space. They're people who are either grant reviewers themselves, grant writers themselves, they're grants professionals, so grants researchers, whatever the case is, they work directly in the industry and have that hands-on knowledge that can benefit you. Okay, so number one, the Funding and Freelance community page, that's bit.ly/freelance grant writer, that's bit.ly/funding and freelance. I will leave the link in the show notes down below. That's the first place where you can find a editor or a peer reviewer for your letter of intent, your proposals, your case for support statements, whatever it is that you need support in. And now I want to just stop here for a second because I think one of the first things that comes into people's minds is, well, do I have to pay them? That is totally up to your editor. Of course, there are editors that do this as a profession, but when you're looking within community, it really is just mutually beneficial. As an editor, you get to see how other people write. You get to get ideas for your own styles and for your own applications. You get to really expose yourself to different ways that other professionals complete their work in a way that maybe you never considered, right? So now not only are you getting experience as a grant writer, but now you're also getting experience as a grants reviewer, which again can be super beneficial if that is the trajectory in which you want to take your career. So the second place where you can find a peer reviewer or an editor for your grants proposals is going to be making connection within your grant writing certification courses. Okay. Now, if this is a group course, it's obviously a lot easier, or if this is a program that's live, it's a lot easier for you to make this connection. If it is a passive course, it can be a little bit difficult, but if you're taking an in-person or online group grant writing certification course, then that can be a great place to make those connections as well and network and kind of help each other out. The third place is your local grants network. So here in Central Florida, I am actually a part of, it's called the Orlando Grants Network, located in downtown Orlando. It is a space for churches, nonprofits, small businesses who really have never been exposed to grant writing. And so it's an opportunity for fellow grant writers to come in, educate them, teach them whatever we can teach them, be of service at whatever capacity we can. And so that's another great opportunity because our founder is actually a federal grants reviewer. Of course, you have myself there, and we have other grant writers. So it's, again, mutually beneficial, kind of tit for tat relationship there, and a great opportunity for you to network with other grant writers and exchange services, right? Now, I promised you at the beginning of this episode that I would have just an additional note and an additional tip here. Everything that we have talked about up to this point has been solely focused on those of us already in the grant writing industry, right? Now, what I don't want to happen is for you to become discouraged because you don't know, quote unquote, know anybody that's a grant writer or grants professional or funding expert such as myself. Now, what you really need is someone that will review your work for you. What I mean by this is it is not absolutely necessary that your reviewer be a fellow grants professional. It's not. You can get this work done with someone from the outside whose work you really trust, who you know is, another great writer, whether they're a content writer, a blog writer, really doesn't matter, copywriter, just somebody that can look out for grammatical errors at the least, and someone who at the end of reading your proposal can really understand the goals, right? Can really understand what is your program about, who's the target audience here, what is the need, what is your ask. So what you can create if you are looking for someone who, or looking at someone who is just a basic editor, not someone who is a grants professional, but someone who's just a basic editor, what you can do is create a sort of rubric as far as, okay, what should you be looking out for because you're not in this industry, and this is really what the goals of that are. Let me know if this is something that you would be interested in. I think that I'm going to work on this anyway for you guys, is a sample rubric that you can provide for your editors that are not grant writers. I will go ahead and send it out to you if you are already on the email list. If you're not, you can send me a DM on Instagram to get on the email list, or you can join the Funding and Freelance community page. That will get you locked in. But this is definitely something that I'm going to be providing you guys with, because I do feel like it could be super helpful, especially for those of you that are just starting to get your feet wet, that are just starting to get acclimated to this industry and don't really have a ton of connections. This could be really helpful. So I'll go ahead and do that for you. And Visionary, if you really enjoyed this episode, if you gained any value from it, I would absolutely be so grateful if you would take the time to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, whatever your favorite listening platform is. That would mean the absolute world to me. We are here at Nothing for Granted are currently working on getting on other podcasts and really sharing the diverse industry and ample opportunities that there are with hiring a grants researcher, grant writer, a funding expert. And so I really want to make sure that I can do this industry justice, give us as much exposure as possible, and help more of us get jobs. And the way that we do that is educating the community on the benefits of working with someone such as yourselves. So definitely be sure to leave a review. Thank you so much for those of you that have sent me DMs and emails and just saying how much this podcast blesses you. Honestly, it is my absolute honor to work for the kingdom, and if that means reaching the nations in this capacity, then amen, I'm so here for it. All right, I'll stop rambling. Thank you so much for listening. Many blessings on you, and I will catch you next Wednesday.